Before we get into the how, I need you to understand the who. Picture this. It's a warm day on June 19th of 2021, a Saturday. 8 girls, ages 4 to 17, packed into a white van on Interstate 65 in Alabama. They were coming home from vacation. They were from a place called the Tallapoosa County Girls Ranch, a home for kids who simply needed a break in life. These are good kids, laughing probably, tired maybe, overall excited to get back home. This is their ordinary Saturday.
Just kids on a road trip on their way back home?
Just kids on a road trip, 2 adults looking after them. Nothing unusual about that Saturday, until a truck driver who should never have been behind the wheel never slowed down. And what the investigation found out about that driver afterward, that's the part that still keeps me up at night. Traffic backed up on a bridge on I-65. Brake lights, everybody slowing down, normal day. A truck from Hanson and Adkins, an auto hauler, pulling what we call a parking lot in trucker lingo, came in too fast. 51 miles an hour in the rain. Hit the stopped traffic.
Whoa, that's bad enough on its own. What happened next?
That was nowhere near the end of it, Bernie. Because behind the stopped traffic, behind the auto hauler that just plowed into everything, was a freightliner from a company called Asmat Express. The driver's name was Mamuya Ayane Takelu. 41 years old, he never touched his brakes. He hit that pileup going somewhere between 60 and 73 miles an hour. In the rain, on a bridge, that white van full of girls got shoved into the median. The fuel tank split open. The van caught fire and burst into flames.
Oh my goodness, did I hear you right? There were 8 kids in that van?
10 people died and 8 of them were children. Now, here's the question everybody wanted answered. Who is this driver and how did he end up on that highway that day? Mamuya Takelu was the driver and he got his CDL in 2016. He got hired and drove for Asmat Express out of Clarkston, Georgia. Federal investigators spent months on this crash, and what they found, and what they did not find, is one of the most damning things I have ever seen in a federal crash report.
I don't like where this is going, so what did they miss?
Everything. They never verified whether Takelu could speak English or was able to read road signs, and they never checked if he understood what officers were saying to him at the scene, which is a federal requirement. It was almost like no one cared, because nobody asked a damn thing.
Doesn't anyone follow the law anymore? Good Lord, you have to be able to read and speak English to drive a commercial truck.
You are 100% right, Bernie. It's the law, yet nobody bothered to check. But that was only the first red flag. There were 4 of them in all, and not one red flag was caught before those kids got into that van. Red flag number 1. Before the 2021 crash, Takelu had already been in 3 other crashes in the previous 10 years. 3 crashes, which is way above normal for a professional truck driver.
3 crashes, and still behind the wheel. Jim, when you first told me about this, I thought you were pulling my leg.
Still behind the wheel. Red flag number 2. The English requirement, never verified. Nobody ever confirmed he could safely communicate with law enforcement or read the signs on American roads. Red flag number 3. His employer, Asmat Express. Their entire safety program was a booklet sitting on a shelf. No real driver training, no bad weather training, no safety training, nothing. The NTSB specifically noted that the other company in this crash, Hanson and Adkins, had required their drivers to complete bad weather courses. Asmat Express did nothing like that.
You're telling me he had a bad record, possibly couldn't read or understand English, had near 0 training, and was out driving in the rain?
Yep, and here is red flag number 4. In the days leading up to this crash, police records showed Takelu wasn't even keeping his logbook right. He was violating hours of service rules and may have been exhausted. That's 4 red flags, and not one of them were caught in time to stop this tragedy.
And 10 people paid for it with their lives. This is maddening, Jim. Everything that could go wrong went wrong.
10 people paid for it with their lives. Now, what happened next? What the justice system did with all of this? That's what really tells you how broken things are. Asmat Express got a failing safety grade, unsatisfactory, and ordered out of service. Good riddance, right? Well, wait, 19 days later, only 19 days, the owner submitted some paperwork, which was a corrective action plan, and the government let them start hauling freight again.
19 days later, and they were back in business? After 10 people died? Please give me a moment. I need to pick up my lower jaw off of my chest. How does BS like this happen in today's world?
Not even 3 weeks. Then Asmat quietly folded and slipped into the shadows. Gone. But the owner? He went on to open at least 8 more trucking companies. 8, and nobody stopped him.
Jim, I am sitting here shaking my head in disbelief. Started 8 more companies after 10 deaths? My goodness, I can only imagine what went through the minds of the families involved.
And here is the part I have the hardest time understanding. The driver was never arrested, never charged. Not one single criminal charge for the deaths of 10 people, including 8 children.
Now, how does that happen in America? How does a man walk away from something like that without any charges?
Lawsuits were filed. Money changed hands with no admission of wrongdoing, no prison time, no loss of freedom whatsoever. Those families buried their children and watched the man connected to those deaths walk away scot-free.
I can only imagine what those mothers and fathers must be going through, sitting across from an empty chair at the dinner table every night. Has to be heart-wrenching.
Every single night. And then, in April of 2024, less than 3 years after the crash, the driver, Mamiye Ayani Takalu, started his own trucking company, ENV Logan Trucking LLC. He applied for and received a brand new federal DOT number and listed himself as the registered agent in Clarkston, Georgia, and went right back to hauling freight on American highways.
The government just gave him a new DOT number. How does BS like this happen in today's world of technology? Aren't we in an era where nearly everything in life is being tracked, and they're saying they can't track this kind of stuff?
The United States government gave him a DOT number. Their standard review process found nothing to flag. No connection to the crash, no red flag, nothing about the 10 people who died. And since reopening, he has already been cited for new violations. He's still not following the rules. So the question every one of you is asking right now, how does that happen? How does a man connected to 10 deaths walk into a government office and walk out with a federal DOT number? Now I know what you're thinking. How does that system even exist? How does a man connected to 10 deaths, 8 of them children, just get a brand new DOT number like nothing ever happened? I'm gonna break it down in just a minute. And I promise, once you see this loophole, you'll understand why this is not a one-time failure. This is a hole in the system that is letting dangerous people back onto the road every single day. But real quick, if this story is hitting you as hard as it's hitting Bernie and me, hit that subscribe button right now. This is exactly what we do every week on this channel. Stories the mainstream media walks right past. Stories that affect real drivers and real families. We're not going anywhere, and neither should you. All right, let's pull back the curtain. Here's how this is even possible, and I'm going to keep it simple. 2 things a trucking company needs to operate legally. Number 1, a DOT number. That's just a registration. It's free and it's easy to get. Takes about 10 minutes online. Number 2, operating authority, an MC or motor carrier number. That requires an application, a review, a fee. Takes about 3 weeks to get. Here's the problem. When a driver is leased to another carrier, crashes and violations go on the carrier's record, not the driver's personal record unless the driver was personally cited.
So the driver can basically start fresh with a clean slate.
Sure can, Bernie. Start a new company, new DOT number, fresh slate, and the FMCSA system has no automatic way to connect those dots. Right now, there are over 2 million DOT numbers registered in this country. Only 787,000 are active carriers. The FMCSA is buried. They cannot keep up. Those families trusted the government to catch this. The government's own system had the door wide open.
2 million numbers, nobody connecting them.
Nobody connecting them. And that one failure is how a man connected to 10 deaths ends up back on the highway with a government stamp of approval. And he's not the only player in this story who walked away clean, because there was someone else who put that load on his truck that day. The load on Takalu's truck that day was booked by a freight broker, a company called Molo Solutions. They connected Asmat Express, a carrier with known red flags, with that load.
Did they even check Asmat out first?
Apparently not. Red flags existed. The business relationship continued anyway. 3 months after the crash, ArcBest Corporation bought Molo Solutions for $235 million, took on the liabilities, settled the lawsuits. Nobody admitted a thing.
Pay up, say nothing, and move on.
And right now, TQL and C.H. Robinson two of the biggest freight brokers in this country are standing in front of the United States Supreme Court, arguing they should face zero responsibility for crashes caused by carriers they personally chose to hire. They want every dollar of profit from placing those loads. But when someone dies, not their problem.
I ran clean for 30 years. Every rule, every log, every inspection. And these companies pick whoever's cheapest and walk away when people get killed.
That is exactly what is happening. Those families got no criminal justice. And now the civil system is being stripped away from them too. That is the full weight of what these families are still carrying today. Here's what I believe. These families went through hell. They lost their children on a Saturday afternoon. They sat through investigations. They sat through lawsuits. They waited for criminal charges that never came. And now, years later, the man connected to their children's deaths is out on the highway again, in a truck with his name on the side doors. They deserved better at every single step of the way. And they deserve better right now.
So what does better actually look like?
Better looks like this. When a driver is connected to a mass casualty crash, the FMCSA system should automatically flag that driver the instant they apply for a new DOT number. That is not complicated. That is a database match. That should be automatic, non-negotiable. Better looks like a driver who kills 10 people, especially 8 children. Never holding a CDL again. Period. No loopholes, no fresh start. Done. Better looks like freight brokers having real skin in the game. If you choose the carriers, you better choose carefully. And if you choose wrong and someone dies, you don't get to write a check and walk away clean.
And better looks like somebody going to jail.
Yes, it does. If you put an 80,000-pound vehicle on a public highway with a bad driving record, possible hours violations, 0 real training, and 10 people die, including 8 children, there needs to be criminal accountability. The civil system is not enough. Money is not justice.
You know what gets me most? Those kids never asked for any of this. They were just riding home.
They were just riding home. And the very least this country can do is make sure the system that failed them gets fixed, so the next van full of kids makes it home safe. Let me say this one more time so it really sinks in. June 19th of 2021, 10 people dead, 8 of them children, ages 4 to 17, coming home from vacation on a Saturday in Alabama. The driver had 3 prior crashes, possibly no verified English skills, working for a company with no real safety program, possibly fatigued from illegal hours. He hit a stopped pileup at highway speed in the rain. No one went to prison. The company folded, and the owner opened 8 more. The driver started his own company less than 3 years later with a government-issued DOT number. He is still out there, still getting violations, still on the road. The broker that put this company on the load got acquired by a different brokerage. Lawsuits got settled. Nobody admitted anything. And this story has been covered by exactly one reporter, Rob Carpenter at FreightWaves. He has gone back to this story every single year since it happened. While the mainstream media moved on, Rob stayed.
Good on Rob Carpenter for staying with it. This industry needs more reporters like him.
We'll put his article in the description below. Please read it, share it, send it to your congressman, send it to the FMCSA, make noise. Because the families of those 8 girls went through the worst thing a parent can ever experience. They didn't give up, and they deserve to know that people are still talking about what happened to their children. That's what this channel is for. We're going to keep talking about it.
For as long as it takes.
For as long as it takes. If this video hit home for you, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment below. Tell us, should that driver ever be allowed behind the wheel of a commercial truck again? We want to hear from you. Until next time, stay safe out there, keep the shiny side up, and keep the rubber side down.